private, that you can keep on your hard drive, that you can build all these things, and then of course Eric Voorhees pops out with Venice, and it's like, wow, okay, wait, we can do this like right now? Like we don't have to be reliant on OpenAI or any of the other big corporations. We can do this for ourselves, and we can own it and control it, and I'm really excited about this next talk. So could I please welcome Luke Stokes and Michael Terpin to the stage. Michael, just to give you a little precursor.
Hello, hello. Greetings. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about Morpheus as well as about your kind of path in Puerto Rico and how you've gone through a few projects and are now sort of one of the key contributors to the Morpheus project. So Morpheus, completely decentralized. Two of the early contributors are both people I've known very long and very well. David Johnston, who is my co-founder of BitAngels back in early 2013, and Eric Voorhees, who I've known since early 2014. I met him at I met David at I just realized this. I met David at the first Bitcoin conference. Foundation conference in San Jose, the only one, and I met Eric at the first European Bitcoin Foundation conference a few months later. And now, of course, I'm working with him on a project with Jacques, his dad, we're really excited about. At any rate, so talk a little bit about, first, your coming to Puerto Rico and sort of how long you've been involved in the space. I remember seeing a Facebook post where people were like, congratulating you for getting into crypto at a couple $100. So let's start with you and your journey to Puerto Rico, and then we'll talk about Morpheus.
Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you all for coming out. I've been here in Puerto Rico for actually 6 years, as of almost a week ago. My wife and 3 kids. I've got a 15, 13, and 11-year-old. Been married 20 years. It's paradise. So I followed a number of people, yourself included, and Brock and others, but it really was actually my friend Sean King. He said, hey, I'm moving to Puerto Rico, you should come. And he understood the taxes, understood the laws, and I just said yes. And then
Yeah, you were leaders of the Nashville immigration.
Yeah, from Nashville, exactly. I started a Nashville Bitcoin meetup in 2013. Pretty early on, I got involved in January 2013 in the space. I have a computer science background, so I was familiar with the tech, really interested in fixing money because money was broken around the world. And that whole experience of we really need self-sovereign, decentralized money. This is motivating all of human society. This is really, really broken. We got to fix it. And that I had a payments company, e-commerce company, FoxyCard. There's actually a Bitcoin wiki entry. There's still an entry for FoxyCard because we integrated with BitPay early on. I was very passionate about the space, passionate about what was being done here in Puerto Rico, that my tax money would go to things that I really want to support as opposed to things that I didn't want to support. And through that whole process, got to meet many of the people you were talking about, involved in various different projects. Seam and Hive, I was a validator there. It was a social media-based blockchain project. Because of those connections, got into EOS, launching EOS. Block One took all the money, kind of did their own thing, but the tech was good, so we went and launched FIO, the Foundation for Inter-Wallet Operability, which is presented at your BitAngels events and Coin Agenda events. It's a usability platform. A lot of projects in the space, unfortunately, are more interested in what kind of NFT marketplace or DeFi platform or whatever, making profits. It's important over usability. I think as we get past that 8% tipping point, that will change. In that early adopter, 16%, people are going to be like,
profits. What are profits of blockchain? You mean appreciation?
Yeah. So the sense that we got to make crypto easier. I spent a lot of time. We became managing director for that. We launched that chain in 2020, and then about two and a half years ago, I kind of took a break and said, I'm going to step back and just enjoy being in paradise. I started wing foiling, hanging out with my kids more, hanging out with my wife. And then this Morpheus thing, this white paper, kind of like the Bitcoin white paper. Morpheus, EO, and Trinity published a white paper, and some people I know started looking at it, and we were like, hey, this is amazing. So they started building it. Come February, they launched a fair launch. It's now known as the More20 standard, which I really want to talk about. And by the way, I appreciate it. I'm on page 200 something of your book, and I noticed you gave a Morpheus shout out in your book. I'm loving the book. If you haven't seen it yet, Bitcoin Super Cycle, definitely check it out. Really enjoying it. But we started working on that fair launch, happened in February. And 90 days after that was the token unlock, and we've been building ever since. It's been really amazing, and just as the panel that was just up here talking about, the team is what matters. What kind of drew me out of a semi-retirement is David Johnson, Eric Voorhees, Brian Brugery, Jeff McDonald, I mean, just Jonathan Mohan, incredible people who've been 10 plus years in the space almost across the board. And they're innovating, they're making new things, like the token lock being similar to your Bitcoin hashing rate, and all these like funny things we can get into because of their experience. And working with great people, I did, just real quick, I've also done a lot of governance systems, DAOs and DACs. I remember the first time I came here, I sat down at one of the breakfasts, probably the 2018, and you're like, I don't think DAOs work. And it took me a little while, and I've come to a similar conclusion that a lot of these governance mechanisms, you have people that come in and vote in a way to extract value instead of creating mob rule, essentially. And what I've been really excited about this is that when you have amazing people and what they call atomic governance, you don't need all this other drama, and you just have people that make good decisions for the best interest of the community, and that's what we're seeing with Morpheus. It's pretty exciting.
Well, the reason why Bitcoin's governance works is in the white paper, right? And it's not one man, one vote. It's one CPU, one vote. And so that is really a brilliant model that has kind of come to grow into $100,000 Bitcoin this past week. And yes, my book, Bitcoin Super Cycle, I'll be talking about it later in the show, and also I will be signing copies at the dinner tonight. And if you're, ticket holder of this show, you get a copy signed, gratis, and pass it along, and do a review, and buy some copies for friends and orange pill them. But at any rate, what was fascinating to me about Morpheus, Jeff McDonald is the one who really, even though I knew David and Eric was the one saying like, this is going to be huge, and really kind of walked me through why. And as co-founder of BitAngels, what I really liked was, you've been talking about fair launches for a long time, and they've always been kind of complex. A lot of them didn't really grow very fast, but to me it was almost one step up from the meme coin launches, but which obviously had their issues, but have done incredibly well. We'll talk about that later in the show. But here the thing that fascinated me was, by going, and nobody noted this before, by going and staking your Ethereum that had a native yield, and there were reliable platforms like Lido that has done tens of billions of dollars of staking with no smart contract hacks. How many times can you go and invest in something, know you're going to get your money back, and still make a profit at the same time?
Absolutely.
So explain, and obviously other people saw that, and it got to its peak. I think it had $500 million that was staked on it, and can be taken off at any time, and you're earning that yield. You're earning tokens, which appreciated. I think Jeff did the math for me that if it was more than $3 or $5, I'd be doing better than the interest. And of course, it shot up as high as 100. It's around 25 right now. So that's the first brilliant thing about Morpheus. Tell us a little bit about the More 20 standard and how it's now being adopted by other players in the ecosystem and beyond.
Absolutely, it's one of those things that when you're, again, with really good, smart people and they see what's going on, it's like you never know what your product is until you meet the audience of your customer base, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, this AI decentralized marketplace thing, which we'll definitely talk about, is very important, that's cool and all, but this thing, holy moly, everyone's going to want to do this. And it actually reminds me, at some point, I don't know if this is true, but the godfather of crypto, as he's been called, I was told at some point 60 to 70% of all tokens on CoinMarketCap, you had some involvement with marketing them. This was the ICO.
That was the number in 2018, I think, so it's probably a little bit lower now. But having helped with Tether and Ethereum and the early days of Ripple, that alone, kind of gooses that number a bit, but with about 400 projects.
So 400 projects, all basically following a similar ERC20 ICO standard. And when you would talk to teams early days, even before Ethereum had a functional blockchain, it was like, what are we going to do? Oh, we're going to do an ERC20. Oh, okay. And everyone just accepted that as that's how we're going to do it. I firmly believe that the More 20 standard that we pioneered with Morpheus, what they developed and deployed, is going to be a similar exciting thing. So basically how it works, it's the first crypto primitive for recurring revenue for your project. You're going to launch a token. Lido has 3% interest roughly right now, and as you said, we launched this, over $500 million came in, staked with Lido. That STE then got staked on the Morpheus smart contracts, which have been audited about half a dozen times now, very secure contracts. Then that yield, that 3%, doesn't go to you anymore, it goes right to the smart contract. Now the smart contract then takes that liquidity, or take that raw Ethereum, and after 3 months from the fair launch, they go ahead and they put that into the Uniswap pool for liquidity. They buy up the token, and they put liquidity. So liquidity is always increasing. It's never going to go away. And buy pressure every week is always increasing because they're buying those Morpheus tokens in order to make the half. They also, because it's going to be half Ethereum, half Morpheus. They also now burn some of those. So one of the things, there's a 16-year emission of the tokenomics for Morpheus, and one of the people talk about Bitcoin, and one of the problems is like, oh, what are we going to do after the blockchain rewards go away? Morpheus solved that. Because they're burning some of those tokens, so 16 years from now, when there's and you're never going to go over the cap of 42 million tokens, they have these tokens they can reissue as rewards. And the More 20 standard is designed so you as a project owner, you're going to launch a token when you have to do it with, in a legal compliant way. Well, there's no team, there's no foundation, there's no nonprofit, there's no companies, there's nothing. It's just smart contracts. There's no commingling of funds. Taco was giving a great talk about this in the conversation we had yesterday at the event with the freedom tools that Brian put on was phenomenal. But the idea that there's no commingling of funds, it's your own work because you're the one staking the Ethereum. There's all these reasons why it's just completely passes how I test and everything else. But the exciting part is, as you said, you don't lose your principal as an investor. You put in your Ethereum, after 7 days you can withdraw it at any time, and then you have that kind of reward that's accruing for you. And the exciting part is the improvements they've made since launch. So when they first launched, as you said, the token was pretty high. We watched it go down pretty low because you have a ton of Ethereum guys who are just like, hey, I can just buy this token at 30-something% and sell it and buy more Ethereum instead of making 3%. So they just kept doing that. And now the liquidity vampires basically. It was like, yeah, there's not really people who want in the project. So now we have a 90-day lockup. So it's like, okay, you can claim only once every 90 days. If you're committed to the project, stick around. Beyond that, we also said you can lock up your rewards. So this is equivalent to Bitcoin in your hashing rate. If you've got better hashing rate, you get more Bitcoin. If you lock up with a better time preference and say, I don't want to touch this reward for 6 years, which is what I've done for my capital contributions, I get a 10.78 multiplier. So my principal, I can withdraw at any time, but my rewards, I won't see those till 2030. Now, if I change my mind, I can just unstake my principal, restake it, and now I'm getting new Morpheus rewards. So those rewards that I staked up to that point, I won't see for 6 years, but I can change my mind and start earning Morpheus tokens today if I wanted to. So it's a really exciting thing. Noun Space has already done it. I think there's another one. Taco. What's that? Arweave is another one. So I think more and more projects are going to look at this and say, wait a minute, we can have real money coming in Ethereum. We can decide which buckets and which percentages and which weights is how it gets distributed. Maybe we've got a cap table of investors. Maybe we've got a community that's helping. Maybe we've got capital contributors. Maybe we've got code contributors. It's proof of work, like you're describing, in various different ways for your individual project. And all of that was so successful, we made it available to everyone. So all the contracts are open source, the dashboard for staking, everything that has been audited and checked is available. You can go right now and launch your own More 20 token. It's pretty exciting stuff.
So the next panel, we will be talking about agents and other sort of decentralized AI business models. But why don't we talk a little bit about Morpheus as a platform for building agents. So you're kind of the Ethereum for building agents. And obviously the most successful example right now is having the Venice.ai LLM built on top of it. So what types of things, because that's not an agent, that's an LLM, what types of platforms can be built on Morpheus and how does it differ from, say, Bitensor?
And before we get to that, I think the most important question is to ask, why does any of this matter? So how many people use AI? Probably everybody, right? You've used AI at some point, ChatGPT, things like that, right? How many times have you tried to ask a question and it's like, I can't do that, Dave. Open the Pandora's open. I can't do that, So yeah, you're gonna see a lot of hands being raised. This is a concern. I have 3 kids, like I mentioned. I want them to have unrestricted access to intelligence. Not just the largest governments and largest corporations using these tools. Everyone should have access to these tools. Just like the OGs in Bitcoin were like, decentralized self-sovereign money is important. Decentralized self-sovereign and private unrestricted access to intelligence is important. This is, as you know, or hopefully know, this was classified as a munition. If you've trained a model with too many numbers of data points, they're like, that's dangerous. Yeah, because it threatens the powers that be. Same thing with cryptography. Cryptography, PGP, was considered illegal, a munition, military secret. And so they fought that. They went across federal borders, went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the crypto wars, the first version of it, was people fighting for free speech. So this is why this is important. I'm very passionate about my children and my children's children having access to these tools. So we needed an anonymous, decentralized marketplace that's peer-to-peer for accessing compute. And that's essentially what Morpheus at its core provides. You can sit there and say, hey, I have a model that I trained. Maybe I trained it on proprietary data even. Maybe it's important information I can't put out there, but the model I can gatekeep. Maybe it's an open source model. Maybe it's a model that my totalitarian regime has censored because it thinks democracy is pretty cool. You can put that model up on this network, and any other person can come along, stake their Morpheus tokens, access the model. And that's all provable on-chain. The value you provided gets written to the chain. The user gets to say, yep, I got that benefit of that model, and then they get their stake back. They didn't have to pay anything, so instead of paying $200 for OpenAI and who knows what they're doing with your data, like every other tech company in the world, they're probably doing something to make themselves money with it. This is private and secure. You can run the models locally on your computer, or you can actually, like I said, go to the marketplace and get access. So that's the model part. There's also an agent part. This marketplace is going to provide access to agents, and these agents are basically models that have been tuned or have additional kind of layers to it for a specific goal. So examples of just early simple agents that already exist, you're chatting with it and you're like, what's the price of Bitcoin? And it goes out to the internet and gives you the right price. Hey, what's the latest crypto news today on this project? And it fills it in. Those type of simple examples are what are out there now, but we really think that even the people involved, they're like, we're all gonna replace ourselves with agents at some point. So anything you can imagine, it's kind of like asking what's gonna be on the internet in the future? Well, name a company that doesn't have a website, that doesn't use email. Like everybody is gonna be on the internet. What kind of project is not going to have an AI agent tool set? Well, all of them. So what can be built with this? Anything. And it's pretty exciting that it's going to be self-sovereign and secure.
Fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about your involvement in the project, what you're contributing, and then also where you see Morpheus ecosystem being in, say, 5 years.
As I said earlier, I kind of took a break from I had like 3 full-time jobs, and it was just like, what if I stop and enjoy this island? And so I didn't plan on working on Morpheus, and I kind of just got passionate about it, got excited about it, just kind of started showing up. I created a Facebook group, because you see me on Facebook all the time posting, and I was like, nobody's talking about this on Facebook. And so I did that. I came to an event in Austin, spoke a little bit about it, and then they started asking me to do videos and helping out with onboarding for the testnet and the Discord. And so it's really just kind of one of those things like no other project I've ever been involved in where you're generally having to argue for your salary or in a DAO, you're arguing for your worker proposal to get approved and get some money. In this case, literally people are just adding value, and other people are saying, here's some weights. Give me an address, I want to send you some weights. Like, you're gonna earn some tokens for the next 16 years because of these weights. Just maintain what you've been doing. That's phenomenal. And again, it goes back to the earlier point that if you have really good people, the levels of governance and all these systems that we try to put in place just almost aren't needed. The people are amazing. So where do I think it's going to be? There's a reason I staked for 6 years. Early Bitcoin contributors, I got Bitcoin when it was $20 a piece when I first bought it. If I could have been on-chain locked up to not sell my Bitcoin, you better believe I would have gone back in time and done that. A lot of these contributors are essentially given that opportunity. They think if Morpheus is going to do well, the average lock, I think, on the code bucket is over 4 years. So these are contributors to the project that are saying, I'm going to work essentially for free for 4 years because I believe in the future value of the token. So I think the ecosystem of More20 is going to create a whole group of people, and there's already been 300-something contributors. They're going to say, oh, you're a More20 project? I know how to work with you. Here's my contribution, and I'd like these weights. They're going to immediately know the system. They're going to know how the payroll works. They're going to know all about it. They're going to know the contracts are audited and safe. So I think it's going to create a whole ecosystem around More20 projects that come back into contributing to Morpheus that also are going to need AI tools and agents. So they're going to come to that ecosystem to get what they need to be successful. And then you're going to have, obviously, an explosion of AI. And when we think about the way the internet is, I started building websites in the late 90s, and Microsoft, Oracle, they all had their versions, some microsystems of what the internet would be. And it was all closed source walled gardens. They all lost. Apache, MySQL, PHP, Perl, like these open source tools. I think the same thing's going to happen with the AI ecosystem. And so the companies that are ahead of that and building open source tools.
There's still a lot of skeptics. I saw an interview the other day saying that decentralized AI is nonsense. No one's ever going to beat ChatGPT and blah, blah, blah. But those are the same arguments that you had back in the days when they said Amazon is never going to be as big as even a shopping mall chain.
Exactly. It just sounds like the same stories we've heard many times. And some of us kind of see the future and contribute to designing it, and other people kind of sit on the sidelines and figure out, oh, I guess I was wrong. So I love the work that you're doing to promote this whole ecosystem, and your support of Morpheus and talking about it. All the people that are involved really appreciate it, because again, we don't have a marketing group. It's only recently that Jeff's been helping out on that side and things. It's just a bunch of people that passionately believe in a project. There's no founder tokens, there's no team tokens. It's just, this is important, and we're gonna show up and do it.
Great. I think we have time for about maybe 1 or 2 questions. Anyone?
Question?
Yes. Do we have mics?
Looks like one's coming right now.
What can I do with my Morpheus token? What can I do with the Morpheus token?
Oh, we got to talk about Venice as well. Just real quick, Venice.ai, 300,000 users that Eric Voorhees has built. It's a private in-your-browser AI system. His initial plan for it is that all that compute is going to be done with Morpheus. And the way he's signaling that, if you have one Morpheus token right now, you can get his pro account for free. You just have it in your wallet, connect to
About
Venice.ai.
20 times the level of inference of the free account.
Oh yeah, it's phenomenal. And so I created a faucet. I don't know if I should announce it here, but I will come after. If you want a Morpheus token, come find me. I can give you a token and you can get a pro account. It's pretty exciting stuff.
Hey guys, thank you. I love Morpheus. I've worked a bit with you guys on the marketing side, and I'm just curious a bit about like how fair launch works. I haven't wrapped my head around it, and I know with Hawk 2 just going off, and like there's so much examples of that. Obviously,
Oh gosh, yes.
the most pertinent one, right? So how can you say, hey, to builders or to startups, you should build on Morpheus because of these reasons versus what else you do on Solana, et cetera?
Fantastic question. So if you're familiar with like Pump.fun and all these horrible systems, like they're designed to screw people over. Like they're not a good design. And the early people, generally the founders, get a whole bunch of tokens and then they dump on people. And this is horrible. And you try to solve this with certain, SAFT programs where there's token lockups and all this complexity. The way Morpheus does the fair launch is on day one, here's a contract, it was just deployed. And then let's say 90 days from that date, we're gonna release the liquidity pool. And from that moment to the 90-day moment, people can lock up their staked Ethereum into that contract and pro rata every single day, you're earning some tokens based on how much you locked up. That's it. There's no team allocation, that was the design that Morpheus did. Now, if you, for example, for noun space, they have different buckets going to different people. There are different ways to design it, but ultimately the contracts are audited and secure. There are tens of thousands of dollars going into auditing, so there's no like little trigger you can switch to like rug pull somebody. And then everything is on chain, so you can actually see, okay, here's the contribution. There's little graphs in the dashboards we build, so you know how much is contributing today. What's my pro rata share of that? And you're essentially getting if you put in $100, I put in $100, and there's only $200 in the pool. Well, you're going to get half the tokens, and I'm going to get half the tokens. It's that simple. The number of people that put into the pool and it builds over that 90 days, and then at the 90-day launch, all of that money that's been earned through again the Lido staking rewards of 3% on Ethereum staking go right into that pool, and so now your token has immediate value from day one without an ICO, IEO, anything like that, and you're probably not incentivized to sell because you're just selling into yourself. That's like your rewards right there. So now you're sitting there going, cool, I have a token that has value, and other people go, I want some. Well, I don't want to sell mine because it's kind of the same price that I would have earned essentially. So they go and they buy from the pool, and now your token's worth a little more. So it's a really clear and fair way to launch a token that doesn't have all the drama of legal consequences of doing ICOs or anything that might be a security.
Fantastic. Thank you, Luke, and we're going to move on to a panel on decentralized AI. Thank you for your contributions.